Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ian Blackburn. I'll be the host tonight of the Stars of Santa Lucia Highlands. And I'm very pleased to bring together this group. This is a sold-out event. And if you're watching us on Facebook Live or you're watching us live on Zoom, we are very happy to have you here. We produce events every Wednesday night, but this one's special. This comes at a time when the markets are opening back up, and we wonder how Zooms are going to continue. And kind of ironic that this event is probably the largest event we've ever had on Zoom. As far as response and the fact that we sold out every wine kit that we could make. That was one of the limitations of tonight's event. We just can't make any more wine kits. That's what we're up against. So we hope you all got your wine sets in good order. We worked very hard to get those out, and they went everywhere. And it's super fun to really get the wine audience together here tonight. This is your event, and I want to make a statement about that. I want you guys to be involved. I want you to chat. There's a little chat box down at the bottom there. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab the auction link, because we're going to raise a little bit of money for charity tonight too. And if you click on that, you should be able to get to, in the chat box, you'll find the link, get to our little auction site. Just a few little lots, but it will mean a lot and go a long way. We raise money for Children's Hospital Los Angeles, the Children's Cancer Research Department, and we're big supporters of Children's Hospital, and we've raised north of $600,000, heading towards $700,000 over the past few years. And it's a program we believe in greatly. And my friend Greg Gura couldn't be here tonight because he's involved in the production of Coachella, but he helps us with all of our charity events and has for years. So he set up that auction site. It'll run until 8:30 tomorrow night. And so I'd encourage you to get in and bid early. If you get outbid, great, you raise some money for charity and you can rest easy. But there's some great values in there. Don't let them not get bid on and wait till the last minute. Be disappointed. Well, we started doing these Zooms, and we do them in a little different way. We want the audience to kind of reach out and ask some questions, whether it's through the chat box or just coming off of mute and waiting your turn to speak. We will give you those options. We'll give you those opportunities. We're here to learn, we're here to listen, we're here to taste. You've got 6 wines in front of you. Let's let the games begin. First wine tonight, we'll be following our formula. If you open up any of those links, one will take you to the charity auction. One will take you to our brochure for tonight. And one will, inside of the brochure, there's also a tasting mat, but in the brochure it lists the link that you can get to go to these wineries. We hope that in tasting these wines you feel inspired to developing a relationship with them, buying the wine directly from the winery. These wines are small lots and in great demand, and some of the wineries may actually be sold out on some of these wines by this point. So we'll find out winery by winery, but join the winery's mailing list and get involved. And that is what we are encouraging. So with that, let's get going and get our Santa Lucia state of mind going on. So we look at this beautiful coastline. There is no place like it. And let's learn a lot about Santa Lucia. If you haven't been there personally, you're very close to Monterey, Carmel, and it's on the just on the other side of the Santa Lucia range. The rain comes through and dumps along this side, but you get a little bit of rain still on the other side of the mountains, not quite as much. And it really creates a unique growing zone. We're going to learn a lot about the soils and the place from the different vintners that are joining us tonight. Great history, going back to the 1790s with the Spanish missionaries and the early vinifera plantings, all the way till today. And the wine region got recognized as an appellation officially in 1991. So we're just over 30 years. Is that 30 years? 10, 20, 30? Yep, 30 years. 30 years as an appellation. And I would say that from the results of tonight's tasting, the demand is strong. The area is special. Only 5,750 acres planted. And that's pretty small growing appellation. I wonder in a ranker of the different AVAs in California where Santa Lucia ranks as far as total planted acres. Does anybody have that kind of statistic information with us tonight? Primary grape varietal is Pinot Noir. Chardonnay follows second, but there's also great Syrah, Riesling, Pinot Gris, and other grape varieties. Let's introduce our first producer tonight. Nathan Stern, CEO of Crew Winery, is on the Zoom with us tonight. Nathan, can I find you there?
I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Hey, buddy. How are you doing now?
Good, thank you. Doing great.
All right, I'm gonna spotlight you, so keep talking to me so I can find you.
Okay, no worries. It's a big group there, I'm sure.
Well, sometime tonight, some of the producers might be referring to our program that we did earlier today. Just so you know, when we produce these events, we get the trade audience involved, the wine buyers, the restaurateurs. And earlier today, we had a really nice trade audience for the winery. So we'll be revisiting some of that information tonight. And I finally found you, Nathan. It took me till
All right. Well, like what you said, I'm definitely in the Santa Lucia state of mind right now too. So, yeah, I think there's certainly a really great lineup tonight, and let's get into it. I think I'll start, just talking a little bit about Crew, and then the wine that we'll be tasting tonight. We're a winery that's deeply rooted in family and friends. We source fruit from some of the finest vineyards throughout the central coast of California, with a focus on Burgundian and Rhone varietals such as Pinot Noir, Chardonnay and Syrah, which are best suited to this region. We craft wines for quality everyday drinking. Tonight, what you'll be drinking from Crew is our 2018 Summento Vineyard Pinot Noir. It's 100% Pinot. It's made from 3 clones, 667, 115 and Pommard. It spends 10 months in French oak, it's 100% French oak, but only 10% of it new. This is a very traditional Burgundian style Pinot. Summento often delivers notes of cranberry, raspberry, and pomegranate. So that that's something that is very common throughout this vineyard. And obviously there's variations year on year, but quite often these notes really show through. So it's great to kind of blend that traditional style, but with something that is very Santa Lucia Highlands and very Summento. This wine is so if you want to move to the next slide.
I missed my cue. I'm sorry.
No worries. This wine is direct to consumer only at our tasting room that's in Santa Lucia Highlands as well. And as you can see there too, it's also in its new packaging. And we're very happy for it to be awarded 91 points by Wine Enthusiast magazine, and also Wine and Spirits just recently. So the 2018 is just really coming into its own right now, and we think tasting really well, and I hope you do too. So while you are working your way through, trying that wine and revisiting it, I'll just tell you a little bit more about us. If we can move to the next slide. As I mentioned, we have we source from all the way from Santa Cruz Mountains down to Santa Maria Valley, with a heavy concentration here in Santa Lucia Highlands. We have strong long-term relationships with key vineyards throughout. 100% of what we do is all Central Coast. And that's where we make these award-winning wines from. The winemaking team is constantly out there in the vineyards and working intimately with the growers and the vineyard managers to ensure the fruit is grown to exact specifications, and building up that knowledge of the specific rows and the specific blocks and how they perform, year on year. Certainly working hand in hand to ensure that the best quality grapes to help produce the best quality wine that we can make.
Fantastic. Now, one of the questions that already came in, I'm going to throw it out there, and anyone can jump on, because we've got a lot of winemaking talent out there, and I thought the question was a really good one. Love to hear the story about how the grapes at the Highlands versus top producers. I'm sorry, I butchered the question already. I'd love to hear the story of how the grapes at the bottom of the Highlands versus the top produce different Pinots. Please elaborate. And I think stylistically, I'd like to know, what are the markers of a Santa Lucia Highlands Pinot Noir? And I'm going to guess it has a lot to do with that rocky minerality.
Yes, I'd say. I mean, it'd be great for one of our winemaker, crews to jump in as well too. But I know for us and where we pull from the different blocks there as well, and it was covered off a lot. The fog, the coolness, but the really cold air that just comes through there every day. Almost, you can set your watch to it. That is really quite unique, and I think that's what creates very fruit forward. And wines, and the minerality as well, which I know Mark has some great slides coming up for you as well that really showcase that. So sure, one of those guys would like to jump in and answer that better.
Sorry, Nathan, to nail you up to the cross on the first question there, but you're doing great.
Well, I can just mention, just because I source from different elevations, and the reason why we do that is on purpose, to sort of display the different elevations and the soil types. Unfortunately, because I get different clones from each of the vineyards I source from, it's not exactly apples to apples, but I do pick stuff in the higher elevation earlier, because it tends to be above the marine layer, and then sort of the mid-marine layer clears. I sort of pick them at what I would consider a sort of a regular time, and then soon follows the stuff below the marine layer. But I think there's so many microclimates in the region. It's really hard to pinpoint, and the other guys on the panel can probably talk about their microclimates specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would chime in to what Sabrine said. This is Steve McIntyre. That one of the big differences that you get with elevation, as you go up in elevation, the wind velocity diminishes considerably. The wind at about 1,500 to 2,000 feet of elevation, if you take off from the airport in Salinas, could actually be blowing the opposite direction. The wind in the Salinas Valley is driven by the maritime, the cool waters out there in the Monterey Bay, and the hot temperatures down the valley 90 miles in Paso Robles. And as that air rises, it just sucks in all that cool air. And so the wind velocity is highest at the narrowest part of the valley and the lowest elevation. So that has a big impact on the wines.
Fantastic answers. All right, Nathan, we're back into your zone, and bonus minutes for everybody.
Okay. So in Santa Lucia Highlands, our grower partner there is the Smith family, who we've been working for well over 10 years with. We have a really great relationship with the Smiths. They've been growing grapes in the area for just on 40 years. 3 generations have been growing. So Rich Smith was the founder and father of Jason Smith, who is now the CEO of Valley Farm Management, and then also his son Justin. I think Rich was integral certainly way back in 91 too, and getting Santa Lucia Highlands as approved as an AVA. So if you're looking at the map there, this just helps orient folks about where this particular vineyard is. Some of the top blocks there in the Smith and Lindley vineyard is the Summento blocks. It's in the middle of the Santa Lucia Highlands bench. It's about 600 feet above the valley floor. The cool, windy afternoons keep the vineyard nice and cool for a long, drawn-out growing season, and those earthy flavours in the wine. Our tasting room is just about 5 minutes south down there, as you can see on the map, and along with the rest of the folks who are here tonight too, through this very unique slither of land.
Beautiful. And your accent does not sound like it's from Santa Lucia. Where do you call home there, Nathan?
Originally Melbourne, Australia. Been out here since 2010.
Oh, beautiful.
Napa for a while, and then now down on the Central Coast area. So it's probably an accent hinted with a little bit of just getting over a cold at the moment too. So it's not a COVID thankfully. Got tested for that, but
very subtle, very elegant. I like it.
So moving forward, just talking about Jose Reyes, our winemaker. He's been an essential part of the team for nearly 15 years now. He began making wine 30 years ago at the Bargetto winery up in the Santa Cruz Mountains. His entire career has actually been on the Central Coast and making Central Coast wines. And Jose's philosophy and our philosophy, throughout Crew is really about minimal intervention and just letting these amazing vineyards that we source from shine through and getting out of the way. We also work with Craig Williams, who's our vineyard consultant. Craig has spent a number of years in the industry, most notably many of those at Joseph Phelps, where he earned 300-point scores, amongst other accolades, and was a board member of Crimson Wine Group, where he really helped, and that's where Craig and I first crossed paths and become good friends. And I really just saw him working with some already very talented and experienced winemakers at other well-known wineries. Just the way he can help elevate and coach the best out of people and take anyone to the next level is just fantastic.
I have a great appreciation for him. I used to, many years ago, represent the wines of Joseph Phelps, and he was an amazing individual. The team that worked with him there. So
true gentleman.
Truly is great. If you send my regards, I would appreciate it.
Certainly will.
And I thank you for being our first wine tonight. It's really showing well, and I'm not sure how many folks have tried the Crew wines before, but this wine has a great value proposition as well. And so I'm going to encourage everybody to support the wineries that are here tonight. Click on the links, whether it's on the email or on the brochure. They're active. They go straight to the winery, and you can join their mailing list or their wine clubs and really be involved. And I love it when folks make some comments in the chat box about what you're smelling, what you're tasting. And again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to chat. You're also welcome to ask Nathan now. Anybody have a question for Nathan? It looks like you're going to get off the hook there, Nathan.
Okay. I might think of something later. But all right. Well, yes. Thank you. I hope it's showing well. I hope you're really enjoying it, and appreciate the support. You can, as I mentioned, it's a direct-to-consumer wine, so it's only just from the winery, but you can find that at crewwinery.com.
And just a warning to all the folks that are looking at the silent auction. One of our top bidders of all time is on the event tonight, Lisa. I don't know if you've already, says she already placed a bid. So she's going to get out there and really make it more interesting. Get your bids in early. Lisa's in the house. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, yeah, we're just wrapping up there too. Obviously very, very proud of, consistently crafting the award-winning wines, which it all starts in the vineyard with fantastic grapes from Santa Lucia Highlands. And now, would you like us to cover our auction lots? Or
sure, yeah, do that. That'd be great. That'd be great.
So, yeah, our
I've already bid. It's mine.
She won't mind. Go ahead. She's got so much wine.
I'm right behind you.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there. So yes, our auction lot is 2 bottles of this Summento Vineyard Pinot Noir that you're drinking tonight, and also a single vineyard seated tasting for up to 4 guests at the tasting room there in Santa Lucia Highlands.
Tremendous. Thank you very much, Nathan. Great job. All right. We appreciate all the vintners, all the participants, asking questions, answering questions. They're going to stay on on the chat, and someone will get to your questions if we can't answer them right live on the moment. But I love having you here and participating, so get involved. Maybe after a wine or two, more questions will start to come out. That typically is the case. So let's go into wine number 2 with our friends at Roar. And we've got Nick Frascioni on the Zoom with us tonight. Hi, Nick.
Hello, Ian. Thanks for allowing me to join, and always fun to be a part of these roundtables with many great vintners of the Santa Lucia Highlands. Very awesome community, people that we see very, very frequently. So it's always good to promote and show what the SLH is all about. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Your support means the world to us. It's oftentimes what energizes us is what people really love about the wine. So always appreciate you taking an interest in seeing perhaps a new appellation that you may not have as much familiarity with, but hopefully we push that tonight and get you to join on board as fans of the SLH. So my name is Nick Francione, as Ian mentioned, and I am one of the 4 members of the Roar production team. My family has had a history in agriculture for the 4th generation now. For me, my dad, the 3rd generation. He planted a handful of vineyards across the SLH and started Roar in 2001, and we've been going at it ever since. My brother also works very closely with me. He works in the vineyard. More so, I'm a little bit more focused on the wine production. And we have a wonderful winemaker as well by the name of Scott Shapley that I'll talk about a little bit too. But very, very family driven, very focused on quality. There is a beautiful shot here that is kind of tough to beat as far as what you get as far as the look of the southern end of the Santa Lucia Highlands. Really just beautiful, little higher altitude. You see some nice fog kind of creeping through the valley there on the left side. And then there's a whole bunch of mountains up on the right that you can't quite see yet. But this is this vineyard Sierra Mar is so unique in all the little pieces that it has and what it creates. And everything, the philosophy is the wine is made in the vineyard. The better grapes you can produce, the better wine that you're going to have as a result of that. And so we're highly focused of doing everything by hand, a lot of manual labor, and a lot of love in the vineyards. The next picture shows a good kind of turn from that, looking up at the top of the mountain range there. And again, this shows all those unique little formations that you would see if you were at Sierra Mar. There's really 6 different parts of the vineyard that make it very unique. They're all completely sectioned off from each other, and they all offer something a little bit different. And that's something that we love about it. It's this huge 400-acre property, and only about 50 of it is planted to Pinot Noir, to wine grapes. We actually do produce Chardonnay, Syrah, Grenache, and Viognier there as well. So there's 5 different varietals. There's a lot of different microclimates within it. There's a lot of altitude or elevation gain from the bottom all the way up to the top. And this is really what you get a look at as far as the southern part of the appellation versus some of the northern area, where it's much more contiguous, it's much more intact, it's all together. And in the southern end, you get all of these really unique formations where there's big drop-offs, some crazy, dangerous roads to traverse, and just a lot of natural beauty. And this is all run off from the top of the mountains, all alluvial soils. And a lot of what we get here is somewhat different from the northern vineyards that we work with. Maybe that was one of the original questions that was being asked from the bottom to the top. I think there's more differences between the southern and the north, and I'll go into that a little bit more with the wine once we get there. But there's just a total persona to this place that has beautiful adventure to it. It's very remote. It's about 2 miles from the main road. So we pump about 3 miles of of water all the way to up to the top, which is kind of a crazy feat in and of its own. And just to get some irrigation, just to get them quenched, and there's on the last slide actually there's an avocado orchard right in the middle of it, and I always love pointing that out because we grow avocados and lemons, and that's what's great about our appellation is that it's just a valley of farmers, and it's not just those couple of fruits that we produce, but there's a ton of vegetable in the valley floor. There's a whole mess of farming that's going on day in and day out every single part of the season, and it's really cool stuff. And as a family, we really love producing something other than just wine grapes and wine. So I always enjoy talking about that. And my family has a lot of great history with farming in the Salinas Valley. A lot of my family came from Europe, from Switzerland and Italy, and so we're very rich in that culture, and really just rooted in the Salinas Valley as farmers and wine producers. And this is another look at the vineyard, just showing some of the different features of it. We often call them kind of like fingers or islands, and they're just incredible pieces of land that are naturally formed. And we're very, very lucky that we're able to be able to plant and to grow on these wonderful gems in the Highlands. And on the right, we call that the island, and that's about 1,100 feet up there. It's a crazy piece of property to get to. Makes wonderful Pinot Noir, and in general, there's just a lot of unique things going on at this vineyard, where you have, again, all of these different parcels that ideally come together in some harmony and create a lot of unique complexity to the wines. We can carry along to the next one, and maybe I might as well just get into some of the wines. On the left, we have some Pinot Noir clusters, and on the right, you get a look at some of the soils there at Sierra Mar. For the wine that we sent your way, it was the 2019 Sierra Mar Vineyard Pinot Noir. Now, this is the 10th vintage of that particular wine, which is pretty exciting for us. That it's still on the younger side, but after I think about year 6, it really started to hit its stride in a very positive way, and things are only getting better. And I think has a very impressive, or has a great future behind it, with a lot of strength to the vineyard. And as far as the wine profile goes, Sierra Mar, one of my favorite things about it is the texture. It tends to be so silky and just very interesting on the palate, as far as what you're feeling or tasting. There's much more than just to the aroma and to the the fruit or the flavors. That texture, I think, makes a pretty big difference and can be a very enjoyable feature of the wine. As far as the fruit goes, SLH in general tends to be very bold, strong fruit, not necessarily strong, but just fruit forward type of wine. And with ours, we get typically darker fruit at this site, a little more blackberry, a little more dark cherry. Those are two flavors that I often see come out of the wine. And with that texture, with kind of like just a thread of flavor, there's sometimes a little bit of gravel or some loamy character that we get with it too. So you get all these unique little things that come into play, and it makes a very complex, delicious, enjoyable wine that will slightly change over the course of the hour or half hour, or however much time you spend enjoying it. So kind of take your first sips now and get an idea of what it's like, and come back 15-20 minutes later and give it another taste and see if it continues to mold or change in any sort of way. It's always fun part about wine is it's not so much a constant, or otherwise I think it would be a little bit boring. They're very dynamic wines, and that's what we strive to do with all of the process of growing the fruit and making the wine. Just a quick picture of harvest. My brother and my dad there. We do everything at night, which is really critical to producing wonderful wines. This is the end of the night, so the sun is just rising, and they finished about a 9-hour day, which is pretty stressful, but also very fun. There's a lot of thrill in the night harvest. And as soon as they're done and they ship it up to our winery, which is only about half an hour away, we're immediately processing that fruit, removing anything that we don't want in there, and making it just clear, pristine berries that are fully destemmed and put into a nice big vat for fermentation. And so we can do that pretty quickly because we're farming the grapes and then we're making the wine. And so we do that with some great logistics that get things in cleanly and get things in safely and very efficiently. So next picture just shows a little preview of what the outside of our winery looks like. And then on the right is our winemaker, Scott Shapley, who I mentioned quickly. He's an awesome dude. He got his work started with Siduri with Adam Lee in the early 2000s. And then we brought him on in 2013 and have had him since. He's incredibly humble, very hardworking, comes with a chemistry background. And I enjoy working with him every day that I'm around him. He's just a great personality and works super hard to deliver the best wine that we look for. And there might be another, yeah. So there's more of just like the fermentation, and as far as making wine, it's a lot of hands off, and a lot of winemakers here will tell you that, and that's really, really important. You want to let the fruit or let the wine speak for itself, and the least you can do to change anything along the way, the better expression of sight that you're going to get from it. And so because we have such highly skilled workers and folks who are highly engaged and trying to make the best product, we are constantly working hard, but allowing the fruit to make sure it's doing what it needs to do to show its true colors. And just a last and final picture is just of the three of us, my brother, dad, and I. So this is just in the backyard of my dad's property. It's a place that I grew up on from the very beginning. And it's absolute love affair that we have with these properties and with this land and the community. Again, there's just so many wonderful people and generations that have continued to pass down the land. And it shows in the wines how much people care about their properties and how much the people who purchase or the people who make the wines directly from those vineyards produce excellent wines as well. And that's why we're small but strong, and we're all in it together to showcase the best of the SLH.
Nick, how many acres of vineyard are under your guidance?
There's a little less than 200 across 4 properties.
Okay. And are they all fairly contiguous, or they span all of Santa Lucia?
Yeah, no, there's a couple in the middle, basically, and then that one that's a little bit further south. So there's the Sierra Mar is really the unique one with all those different, very distinctive formations, and then a lot of the other ones are just kind of usually one piece that stretches out and is pretty easy to farm. But yeah, it's kind of a neat thing. A lot of the land has been passed down, and my dad has been smart to develop kind of at the right time in the right places.
Perfect. Fantastic. The wine is gorgeous. Just a thriller. And so we're very pleased to be able to pour that for everybody tonight. And someone was asking me on a text message, how many jars can we do? We did over 660 jars for this event, so that was quite a bit. It's a teeny little office. I have to hire smaller employees so that we can do more production. But it was really a fun project for us. So thank you guys for being so popular and making it happen. All right, we move into wine number 3 as we finish with Roar and their silent auction item, which is a magnum of 2019 Sierra Mar, valued at $160, but maybe valued a little bit higher than that tonight. Let's see where it goes. How many magnums do you guys make?
Very, very few, only like 8 or 9, 10 cases sometimes. So we usually keep them pretty limited and keep them typically for donation.
That's a great idea. Well, fantastic, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to Lucia, and Mark Pizzoni is with us tonight. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Ian. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Good to see you again, sir.
Ian, quick question. Some didn't get the Lucia, but got the other one, the Pizzoli or I should know
Pizzoni.
that. I'm Italian. I should know that.
No problem. No problem. Yes, the label art that we used is potentially incorrect.
Okay,
What
gotcha.
you got is correct in the jar, but we put Pizzoni family on the jars. We started labeling these jars weeks ago, and so yeah, the jars were labeled before we poured wine in them. We poured wine on Monday, and it's actually the Lucia inside. It is the pronounce that for me, please.
Forget those pronunciations, Ian. So
Yes.
I'm Mark Pizzoni. Our family produces a wine called Lucia. Lucia is our main label that we do, all from our estate fruit. And we have a kind of overarching Pizzoni family vineyards where we are have a couple properties in the appellation that we own and that we farm, and that we're partnered with Nick and his family with. So you got the right wine, and I got a hunch you're gonna love that wine. So a little background on myself. I'm the farmer of our family. We've been farming in this area since the early 1900s. We started out as dairy farmers in the early 1900s. We transitioned in the 1950s from dairy to vegetable farms. And then in the early 1980s, my dad went up into the mountains in the Santa Lucia Highlands and began planting wine grapes. He planted these wine grapes in the mountains without any water. Just, my dad loves wine, loves sharing it with people, and just is kind of a big ambassador, I feel, to the wine industry. Encourages people to bring wine into their lives and share it. And it's something that I think we all need to remember, that wine is fun and it should be enjoyed by friends, and like doing fun things like this with Ian, which is really cool, that you get all of us together and we get to share great wines and learn more about it. I'm a big fan of education and love talking about the Santa Lucia Highlands and our vineyards. We are a true family operation. We've been at it for quite a few years. Like I said, my dad got us started. My brother Jeff is our winemaker. I'm the farmer of our family. My wife Quinn does our accounting. My grandmother Jane, who's 97 years old, has finally slowed down, used to be in charge of our accounting. So we all kind of get involved and help out. I even put my kids to work in the summertime. You gotta have that free family labor. You get those kids out there, you get them working. It's kind of like how I learned, and it's fantastic for that. I want to pull back and talk about the Santa Lucia Highlands a little bit. It's a truly special appellation. There's only a handful of spots in the world where you can grow these cold climate grapes that we're growing and these wines that we're tracing, like Pinot Noir. I mean, there's probably maybe a dozen of them. It's cold, it's windy, it's foggy. It's this really dry climate with really poor soils. I mean, the winds, if you stepped outside now, it's probably 20 to 25 miles an hour. And it's like this regularly in our appellation. And if you're not from here, it's shocking. And that gives us a really long growing season and allows these vines to really mature on the vine and gives us extremely complex, fantastic wines, which I love. And it's composed of these long-term family farming families that are extremely connected to the land, that truly love the land and that have been here for years and years, and that are look to care for it for generations and generations. And I'm thrilled to be part of that. And that's gets to be my job. So there's our Pizzoni vineyard. You see my brother Jeff on the left, I'm in the middle, my dad's on the right. And it's a pretty fun family to be part of, and focused on making fabulous wines and committed to making fabulous wines. This next picture that's popping up is a picture of our Sobranus vineyard. It's right smack in the middle, the heart of the Santa Lucia Highlands. It goes about between 200 to 600 feet elevation. Gorgeous property. There's a whole bunch of oak trees there on the property. So we planted our vineyards around all these oak trees on the property. Preserving that biodiversity is extremely important to us. The property also has 3 distinct spots. There's a dry ravine that runs through the property. Unique soils. They're really this kind of sandy loam soil with this granite, tightly spaced vines. Vineyard was planted in 2008, and I got to be a huge part of planting it. Really fun project. And our family and Nick Francioni's family own it, or have a long-term lease on the property. And the wine we're drinking of today comes from this vineyard. Let's see your next slide. This gives you another better look at Monterey, the Monterey Bay, Monterey County, you could see our Pizzoni Vineyard, the Gary's Vineyard, and the Sobranus Vineyard. That proximity to the ocean, right over the ridge from Big Sur next to Carmel, that cold climate and that ocean are extremely important for us in this area. Talks a little bit about the soil. I'm a big education fan, and this highlights the truly unique soil that we have in the area. My brother invested a lot of time researching these soils. They're these granite-based soils, extremely old soils, and it's very rare to have granite in coastal climates. Very well-drained soils, very poor soils, forces the vine's roots to dig down deep, search the earth for water and nutrients, and it produces little tiny berries and little tiny clusters, which makes these fabulous wines that we're drinking today. This highlights a little bit about our sustainability. As a long-term farmer, firmly committed in being a sustainable farmer. Our families have been farming for generations, and we're looking at what we're doing now is adopting the best of sustainable practices, best organic farming practices, the best practices in regenerative agriculture, best biodynamics, and encompassing all these practices on our farm to create a space that will continue for generations and generations and create some special wines from it. And I truly feel as a farmer that you need to be taking care of your ranches. And if you're not taking care of your ranches and your team and your community around it, you're doing something wrong and you need to get out of this business. And it's cool to be part of a team that's all in on taking care of this place. And the things that we're doing out there are, I mean, fantastic between cover crops that we're doing, these, solar panels we have, I mean, it's just really cool cutting edge stuff. The wine we're drinking, our Sobranus Pinot Noir, my brother Jeff's our winemaker. In the cellar, this is all free run fruit, native primary. You don't use yeast in this, really doing what we can to make fabulous wines that truly represent the site. Some recent press, we've gotten a lot of press, which is awesome. It's great when people like you. Sometimes they like you, sometimes they don't. But I think we're very true to our site, to our wines, and to what we're doing. And the wines that we're creating and how we're farming. This kind of precision farming really resonates with people. I mean, we're out there hand farming these vines. We figure we touch these vines every 7 to 14 days. It's truly rare. The farming that we're doing, people just don't do it anymore. And to create wines like this, you can't do it by machine farming. You've got to do it with this human touch and this love that we apply on all these vines. And it's awesome to be part of a family that gets to make truly special wines.
Well, it is a truly special wine. It's tasting so good, and we're seeing some really nice comments here about this wine. How long have you been involved in the family operation? Was he using free labor with you when you were?
Yeah, it's awesome. From when I was a kid, and out in our vegetable farms, which we still farm today, out in the vineyards, learned how to appreciate our ranches, learned how to work hard, and just learned a lot. Went to school for all this, but I really feel I learned more from our team. Extremely talented team that's been with us for, some of our employees have been with us for 30, 40 plus years. And it's awesome to be part of that team and to see these people and their kids move up and do fabulous. So yeah, happy to be part of that.
Natural fermentations, or are you adding yeast and?
Yeah, no. So we're all native fermentations, native primary fermentations, native secondary fermentations. My brother is very hands-off in the cellars. We want to start with fabulous, clean, pristine grapes and transition them into gorgeous wines. I think that's important. My brother is very meticulous, very on the ball, really focused. And my dad loves to say that he's got one kid in the vineyard, the other kid in the winery, and now he gets to just sit back and drink fabulous wines, which is awesome. And that's, important to remember that we need to sit back and relax and drink fabulous wines. So, Ian, thanks for inviting me onto this thing. Thanks for inviting all you guys, sharing out with the guests. And I'd encourage you all to come visit the Santa Lucia Highlands. Gwen's got an event coming up, Santa Lucia Highlands Gala, which is an awesome opportunity to visit the gala. coming up that Gwen could probably stick something in the chat room. You can visit the gala. You can go hiking. Someone mentioned Pinnacles. It's great for hiking. You can go hiking in Big Sur. My family and I, we hike around here all the time. It's a great spot.
Great. Fantastic. And in fact, where is Gwen? Is she out there? Let's say hi to Gwen. Gwen, are you okay to come on? We didn't talk.
Yeah, I'm here. Hang on.
Well, Gwen has been in charge of rallying the team here and really did a great job of getting it all pulled together for me and helping me make this a successful venture. Thank you so much, Gwen.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us, Ian.
Well, it's a wonderful group, and I think everyone here tonight is going to make some new favorite friends, and we'll have to see what we can do to get more folks up there. Maybe we can get an excursion of some sort, and you can meet us up there for the weekend or something. That would be a really cool idea. Well, we are now going to move into wine number 4 with Mr. McIntyre. But I hope I'm giving everybody enough time. Oh, hi, Gwen. There you are. Sorry. I didn't want to steal your spotlight, but thank you so much again. And we will now move into Mr. McIntyre's wine, but I once again cut off that silent auction mention. And so I got to go back to that. Lucia Wines, Sobranus Vineyard. Did I say that okay, Mark? Did I hit it right? Sobranus
Vineyard, correct. It's an old Spanish land grant. And your pronunciation's getting right on. Another glass or two and you'll be money.
I'm telling you, it's definitely helping. Yes, sir. Well, fantastic. And 95 points, Jeb Dunnick. Parker 93. It's a Magnum. Let's get on that. There's nothing better to take to a dinner party than a Magnum of wine. A regular bottle's nice, but a Magnum is 3 times better. So get on that. All right, we're gonna head into some time with Mr. McIntyre.
Great, thank you, Ian, and please call me Steve. It's a pleasure to be here this evening and talk about something that so many of us are so passionate about. I think that's one of the things you'll see tonight is the passion and also the community, the sense of community and family that goes along with it. If somebody asked me what one word would sum up the Santa Lucia Highlands, I would say authenticity. And that's what makes it so special to all of us. But I've had the pleasure of farming up in the Highlands since 1983. I started out as assistant winemaker at Hahn Family Vineyards and then got out into the vineyard after I realized that I wasn't necessarily cut out to be in the dark all day long with a jacket on and, rubber boots in water with 480 volt electricity. I felt a lot safer out in the vineyards I went. But so I've been farming up there for a long time, and it's so amazing to watch the transformation from, we were growing Pinot, Cabernet, Merlot, and Cabernet Franc back in the day, and you won't find that in the Highlands any longer, fortunately. But now we have varietals that are really no-brainers, if you would. And thank you for the next slide. I appreciate that. Our estate vineyard we've owned since 1987. And to give you an idea how things have changed in the Highlands, in 87, this vineyard, it was planted in 72, so parts of it will be 50 years old this year. This was going to be abandoned. It was all Pinot Noir. We didn't know what clones were back then. We purchased and closed escrow, excuse me, March 1st of 1987. And I'm embarrassed to say that that year we had to beg people to buy grapes at $300 a ton.
Wow.
And that's why it was going to be abandoned. The market was just terrible. We bought the property for $5,500 an acre. And so, good fortune being what it is, and my wife convincing us that we shouldn't sell it along the way while things were difficult. Here we are today. So very, very excited about that. Our winemaking, next slide, please. This gives you an idea where we're located in the Highlands. So we're in the northern portion of the Highlands. Gary Francione's house is a stone's throw away to the south, and Sleepy Hollow, Ascoli, Vineyard. There's a lot of vineyards that surround us of some renown. And again, some of the vines now are 50 years old, which is on their own rooted too, which is kind of interesting. Next slide, please. Well, this just gives you an idea of some of the topography. Like everybody, we're on an alluvial bench land, quite deep soils, median fertility, if you would, because they're up on the hills. They're wonderful sites to farm because of their uniformity. That gives you a lot more control. I like to say that terroir is everything we can't control. And we've talked about some of those things. Certainly the wind is something we can't control, but without it, it would change our style. It would change the product significantly. And one of the biggest reasons is that we reach our maximum temperature at about 1 p.m. as other winemaking regions are still gaining in temperature and don't reach their maximum until 3 or 4 p.m. Because we reach it so early in the day and start to cool off, that allows the accumulation of sugar to slow to a certain extent, because sugar is rate and time dependent. So over time it goes up, and as it gets warmer, it goes up faster. Everything else that we're looking for in a grape, for structure, aroma, aromatics, flavor, all of that is downloaded in the grape over time, and temperature doesn't have the impact that it does on sugar. So that's why the wind has such a great influence on our winemaking. And the next slide would be good, please. There we are. And this is my wife, she breeds Bernese Mountain Dogs. So I always throw in a Bernese Mountain Dog picture. And we also, at our events, we have the hawk folks come by, and we use those for bird control in some of our vineyards. Fortunately, not in the Highlands. We don't have a big bird problem, but certainly in some of our other locations we do that we farm. My day job is farming for other people, and we actually sell grapes to over 50 wineries. But this is the fun part of the family. And there's also a hole here. Every year we do a seminar, and we bring people out. This is a bunch of somms that came out, and we look at the soils and we look at the root systems, because most of our vines in the Highlands are as close to dryland farming as you can get in an area that only gets 13 inches of rainfall per year. And a lot of people ask, I don't know if anybody's, I haven't looked at the chat here for a second, but we're in really good shape when it comes to water in this part of Monterey County. We've been declared sustainable in our subbasin based upon the amount of inflow we have from the Arroyo Seco River and the Salinas River, and the amount of water that our farming community is pumping out of the ground. There are very few places in California, in particular, that can say that. And so that's another great element. And for grapes in particular, don't use a lot of water. Many times we're only irrigating when it's hot. We are very thrifty and could and conserve that natural resource. Next picture. This is our primary winemaker, Byron Kasuki, and I've been collaborating for a number of years now. We've also added a few other winemakers to the adventure, if you would. We are adding a new SKU. It's our winemaker series. And our winemaker series will feature a winemaker using our grapes, of course, and in their own style. And one of the methods behind this semi-madness is that I'm 65 years old. So maybe I've got another 20, 25 vintages left before I fall apart or something. And because of that, we're trying to accelerate our pace of discovery. So getting a little competition between winemakers really starts to pay off as we build on what we're doing. I like to say we're having an evolution, not a revolution. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're trying to learn from what we garner from each year's experience and add to our vineyard and make little tweaks to move the ball forward and achieve our best potential. Next slide, please. So the wine that you're drinking tonight is our 18 Estate Vineyard Pinot, primary Dijon clone. You see the soils. We're minimalistic winemakers, just like most other folks here tonight. What my professor at Fresno State once said, Vince Petrucci, is you want to leave a little grape in it. And that's exactly what we do. We're using oak, certainly for fermentation in whites and for aging in both varietals. And but there are not a lot of new oak. So we're letting the fruit shine through, that fruit forward, bold style that tends to develop in the vineyards of the Highlands. And we're not filtering or fining, and we're not adding yeast or malolactic bacteria under normal conditions. Next slide.
And any stem inclusion in your production?
Yeah, and that's where the individual winemakers differ so much is stylistically, how long they might leave it in oak, when they bottle, stems, and that's what makes that such a learning experience as we move the ball forward, so to speak. So good question. And we have a tasting room in Carmel, in the Carmel Crossroads Shopping Center. And then the next slide. We developed a hospitality event center up in the Highlands at our estate vineyard that we just had our first event in 2 weeks ago. And eventually we have 4 phases to this project. The grass that you're seeing in the background there someday, it's already been designed, will become a barrel room, a subterranean barrel room built into that natural bowl. And we're standing in the courtyard, kind of a Spanish type courtyard, and the tasting room and the view of the beautiful valley is behind us in this particular picture. So we'll be having more events up there, and we look forward to hosting you.
Excellent. Your auction tonight, it's a Pinot Trio, a vertical.
Yeah. You see the old label and the new label. And we've all been, I think all of us have been quite pleased at how well, not only the Pinot Noirs are showing with age, but the Chardonnay has been a pleasant surprise in terms of its ageability. So look for that in a vertical one of these days.
Wonderful job. Fantastic to meet you here on the Zoom.
Thank you.
I just need to call you Mr. McIntyre. I'm not sure why.
Might be the beard. I don't know.
Well, it was really nice to spend this moment with you and learn more about your wine. Does anybody have any questions for Steve? You're a quiet group tonight. Maybe the 5th wine will get to you. But
Hi, Steve. I was wondering who manages your vineyard.
We manage them ourselves. My day job is Monterey Pacific Incorporated, and I'm the founder and president. And we farm vineyards in Monterey County and San Luis Obispo County. So it's all in the family.
Hey, Steve, Mark Pizzoni here with a quick question, your neighbor. Your winemaker series, are those all bottled under the McIntyre label? Because I think that's a pretty cool project.
Yeah, they're bottled under McIntyre, and then in the background is the winemaker's signature, kind of in a I forget the term for it on a label. And then in the back of the label, it's a little bio and a quip from the winemaker, and each of the labels is just a little bit different color to be able to tell them apart. But yeah, Sabrine actually, who's going to speak a little bit later, she's one of the participants. So hers is a 2021 so it's not out yet. But Don von Stavern is our first victim, and his wines are be out. It's a 2019, and they're being released now.
Very cool. Well, I'm taking a look at the audience now. I just wanted to say hi to a few folks. Some of our regulars join a really impressive group of SLH fans. Rick, good to have you on our Zoom tonight. Thank you for joining us. And Setsuko is listening in from Japan. David Cam is one of our supporting members and always a very active participant. I want to thank you. Hector Sandoval is our photographer for our events. Whenever you go to one of our great tastings in Los Angeles, Hector is our photographer, and he's a huge wine-loving fan, so always great to have him in the room. Ben Helber, where are you zooming in from tonight? Oh, you're muted, but there you are.
Thank you for letting me join. It's been great.
Oh, awesome! Thanks for participating. Where are you zooming in from?
We're from the San Francisco Bay Area.
All right. And Susan Ryan, we spoke on the phone tonight. Good to see your face. Thank you so much for joining us. John Lazaro, you have asked a lot of good questions. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you, Ian. I'm in flyover country.
Yeah, awesome. Bob Santiago, good to see you, sir. Hope retirement's treating you well. And Lisa Tess, of course. Ace Clark, always great to have an ace in the room. Julie, oh, great to see you, Julie. Oh, there's your husband. How you doing? They're very kind folks that donated their time to the LA County Fair. We're pouring wines for the LA International.
Awesome experience.
It was great. Such a good crowd of wine worshipers. Hi, Clint Watson. Thank you both for joining us. I think Clint has the beard. I think I'm happy that she's muted as well. All right, well, we'll get into wine number 5 and saying hi to Bernardus. Ready?
Yep. You ready? All right. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see everybody again. My name is Jim McCabe. I'm from assistant winemaker at Bernardus. I'm just going to start off telling you a little bit about the winery itself. We're in Carmel Valley. Oh, there we go. About 40 minutes from Carmel, or 20 minutes past the Carmel Valley Village. There we go. We make about 50,000 cases a year, and tonight we're presenting the 2019 Rosella's Pinot Noir. We make 850 cases of the Rosella's Pinot Noir. It's one of our smaller and premier Pinots that we make. We work closely with the Francione family, Nick and Gary and Adam, and we're very, very lucky to get their fruit. 2019 was a good year. We had great aromas of ripe fruits and some cherry and cranberry notes. We do 100% French oak with about 30 to 40% new oak vintage. We like fermenting at cooler temperatures, so we try to control our fermentations and have a little bit longer, delicate ferments, pumping it over 1 to 2 times a day to control temperature and to control the fermentation. We do add yeast to our fermentations, and then we let the free run, we collect the free run and then press them gently to collect the rest of the juice. This wine they were picked in the end of September, and we were bottled in June of last year of 2020, and yeah, we made about 850 six packs go on there. I don't know if anybody has any questions about Bernardus or the Rosella's wine in general, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody had.
Well, first, I always like to tell people a little personal experience I've had with you guys. I started tasting your wines back in the 90s and loved what I was seeing in Pinot from you guys, and that was before Pinot really took off. You know, Pinot had this kind of like unbelievable pickup in interest by the early 2000s, but it was a kind of slow start to the Pinot revolution that we've been in for the past 20 years. It was like it took about, I don't know, it was an overnight success. It just took about 15 years to get there. I discovered your brand, and I got told the story about Bernardus, and you look closely at the label and you see the family crest on the bottle. The Pon family, Mr. Ben Pon, founded Bernardus and Bernardus Resorts, and that little family crest sits on top of a Porsche as well, because the Pon family helped finance the rebuilding of Porsche after the World War.
That's right. Ben Pon also raced for Porsche in the 60s. He raced 24 Hours of Le Mans early in his race career, and then moved to California later and established Bernardus in 1990. And then we started with some Bordeaux varietals. We started with some Cab and Merlot, and then moved over and started producing Pinot. In the mid 90s, I think we started sourcing wine from Biennacido, and then early on started a relationship with the Francione family, sourcing from we had Rosella's, Sierra Mar, Sobranus, and the Gary's Vineyard, with both the Pizzoni and Francione families. So we're extremely lucky to be able to source grapes from them, the premier Pinot producers in the Central California. So we're very happy about that. That's one of our barrel rooms. You can see there some of the new oak on the top level there. So that's where we age the Pinot for about 8 months in barrel, and then bottle it in the summertime.
And when you inoculate with the yeast, are you picking a particular type of yeast strain to elevate some characters, or are you using a Burgundian yeast, or what is it about the yeast that you're looking for to achieve?
That's exactly what we do. So what we'll usually do is split up our fermentations into smaller lots, and we'll use different yeasts on different lots. So for instance, this is the Rosella's was made with the 777 clone from 2 different blocks in the Francione vineyards. And what we'll do is we'll split those up, use different yeasts to ferment them, and then as they age in barrel, we'll come back and taste the different lots with the different yeast. So the idea behind that is to give the winemaker, Dean DeCorth, kind of the broadest palette in order to blend wine, so we can try to create the absolute best wine we can that expresses kind of the beauty and elegance of Rosella's Vineyard through those blending options.
Excellent. Any questions from our group? Well, tonight, Bernardus was always very generous, gave us a Magnum as well, the 2017 Santa Lucia Highlands. Magnum is on the auction block, and we thank you guys for your support.
Great, thanks for having us here with everybody.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, last but not least, we're going to head to Wrath, and we're going to speak with Sabrine. Sabrine has been a fantastic Zoom hostess with me on a couple of occasions over the last year. Sabrine, now let me find you in our audience.
Yeah.
I'm here.
There you are. There we go. All right.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Good to be with you all.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. I think tonight you guys have our Buchenuggen, our 19 Buchenuggen Pinot. We actually source a lot of fruit from the Santa Lucia Highlands. Our home property is in Monterey, AVA, just at the bottom of the hill. South of us is Han, and who's directly north of us is Bianchi Bench, is just north of us. And Steve actually manages our vineyard. So Steve wears many hats, but he's been managing our vineyard. I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but since the mid 80s, maybe late 70s, early 80s, I'm not quite sure. I think the lemons were one of his first clients as a newly minted vineyard management company. So he's had a lot of history with the property, our home property that we source from. Our property is below Santa Lucia's is mostly sort of a sandy loam closer to the bottom of the river. But Buchenuggen is the furthest away from our property. It's our highest elevation. And I think Mark was mentioning sort of this granite mixed with sort of a loamy soil, but there's a lot of granite up there. You can actually kick your foot up there and you'll see chips of it sort of flying off, which is really fantastic. And then you get to McIntyre Vineyard, which is sort of mid-bench for us, the properties we source from, McIntyre, Lemoravo, which are more a mixture. And then you really see that degrade down the bench into Tendre and KW, which are closer to the road, which are more that Arroyo Seco sandy loam soil, which is exciting for me as a winemaker because I get to source from all these different properties from the hillside. And we keep our fruit, obviously we keep our vineyard designates separate, but even on our own property, we keep all of our Pinot clones separate. It's the one thing that's really exciting about Pinot is it is Pinot Noir is the most highly mutated Vitis vinifera. And in those mutations, we actually see that expression in the flavor of profile of the wine. So I don't care if the mutation means that one leaf has a furry leaf and the other one doesn't. That doesn't mean anything to me. But when I see the expression of the clone in the flavor profile of the wine, that's when it means something to me. And I think there was discussion about Dean pulling from his spice closet. That's how I feel with the Santa Lucia Highlands, and that's how I feel with clonal differences, is I get more spice components to pull from as a chef. You know, you just don't want salt and pepper. You want everything else too, right? Mm-hmm. I think that was mentioned before. This slide is actually, Steve talked about this a little bit, is this cooling that we get from the Blue Grand Canyon off the coast of the Monterey Bay. It's one of the deepest canyons, water or ocean canyons on the planet. And we get this cooling effect because it gets hot down in Paso and it sucks the fog in. And when you get higher up in elevation in the Santa Lucias, you get less wind. Our vineyard is called Wrath. We called it Wrath. It actually is from a song by Led Zeppelin called Going to California. But I always think about it as obviously the grapes of wrath, but I think about it really as a winemaker, as the wind that runs through this valley, that runs from north to south. We get this north to south wind that sucks the fog in because it gets hot in Paso and it's cool where we are. And the wrath of the wind, it was mentioned before how we talk about these little microclimates in our valley, but also you'll get stomatoclosure, you'll get stress in the plant, which creates ideally, I don't know if there's any peer-reviewed papers written on it, Steve might know, but when you get this sort of stress and stomatoclosure, we ideally think that we're putting more flavor profile, more flavor components into the fruit, because the plant is stressed. It wants to sort of give all its goodness to its progeny. But this is one of the things we get from this valley is this wind. And there was also discussion about, you can actually see you see the grasses in the picture on the bottom, that's from the north-south wind. Even all the trees in the background, you see how they're sort of leaning to the right. That is from the wind that we get down the valley. We're actually sort of behind a bluff. Bianchi Bench sort of protrudes out a little bit. So we're actually a little bit more protected even because we're sort of against the highlands and behind a bluff. You see us on the map there. We're sort of tucked in behind this point, which is the Smith Lindley Vineyard down there, and the Bianchi Bench sort of sticks out a little bit. We get a little bit more wind protection. So you can imagine if our trees and our grasses are doing that, you can imagine what it's doing in the middle of that valley on a windy day in the summertime and into the fall. On the green dot on this map is, I think that's not Buchanugin. That's the green dot is next to Buchanugin. You see, I think they just stuck it next to it. It happens to be sitting on a line that points to Rosella's, but Buchanugin is way up there. So you see how high up it is. We actually pick that fruit the earliest. We often pick it right at the same time we're picking Sauv Blanc because it's actually ripe. And so because there's less wind up there and they're a little bit above the marine layer, we tend to pick that fruit the earliest of our Pinot Noirs. And then sort of we pick mid bench and lower bench pretty much at the same time typically. You can go to the next slide. If anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to ask. The one thing I love about Buchanugin is it's 113 clone and 115 clone is 50-50 blend. I have 115 on our property and now we have 113 there. I keep calling them babies, but I think they were 3 or 4 years old now. We still label them in the winery as baby 113. Someday we'll get past the baby title, but because they're new to us. But it's a lot of fun. We have some fun clones out there, and I planted 113 on our property because I love the 113 I was getting off of Garrett's property, Buchanugin's property. We keep the oak levels pretty low, 25%. We do 20% whole cluster. So we do some stem inclusion. I know somebody mentioned in the previous about a little bit when you I actually kept my one open from earlier, and I have the new pour that I poured out of the same bottle. But you can get some tight 19s. To me, all of my 19s right now are unusually tight. I think they need a little air. They actually need a little air, a little time. I think the stem inclusion, you can get a little bit of pyrazine, or not pure pyrazine, but you can get some sort of vegetal component from the stems. But my one that I opened earlier that I saved till now, you really get more of that full force of the fruitiness and sort of that ultra tutti fruitiness, a little bit more of that Bing cherry, black cherry, boysenberry characteristic. I'm a fan of Hermitage barrels. I know Nick, I asked Nick earlier what he was using. I use a mixture of barrels, and I'm always doing barrel experiments. I'll always get 2 of anything. I think the salespeople love me because I'm like, I'll take 2. But I like to do experiments because you never know. That's the only way you're going to learn what is perfect for a clone or for a varietal. And so I use, whoa, my wine glass fell over. I use Ramon barrels as well. Nick said I use Ramon barrels, but my favorite is Hermitage, and I like Hermitage partly because a year 2 Hermitage barrel, you get a lot of hit on it. In fact, we had to be really careful on our Chardonnays because we were actually using too many 1-year-old barrels and we were getting too much oak. We were sort of treating them as an older barrel, and you get quite a bit of oak expression on them. But also because to me, the expression is sort of nutmeg, eugenol. It's sort of that clove, nutmeg, cinnamon, not so much cinnamon, vanilla, but more clove, nutmeg, and sort of, I call it Szechuan peppercorn, where you actually sort of feel the numbingness from the barrel, which I really, really love. We don't make a lot of any of our single vineyards. We get about 5 tons of each of them. So if you want some, you ideally have to be in the club or get on the list. We do have some out in distribution, but not a lot. They tend to go to our favorite accounts. We made, that's accurate, 355 cases of this wine. We get about 5 tons from each of the single vineyards. And I made a list because I forgot some last time. Our other vineyard, SLH vineyards we do Buchanugin, Tendre, McIntyre, Cortada Alta, Lemoravo, and KW Ranch. And then our home vineyard, which is Monterey AVA, we have Sauv Blanc, Pinot, Chard, Syrah, and a little bit of Falanghina, which is an Italian white varietal, which is a lot of fun. We do, this wine actually that you're tasting is from a larger fermenter, but we don't have any huge fermenters. I think this wine was made in a 5-ton fermenter. We do a lot of small punch down bins, as you see in the picture. For most of our experiments, we do a lot of experiments. I've done everything. I take 1 clone and I'll do it 0 whole cluster, 20%, 50%, 75%, 100%. In fact, I have 100% whole cluster wine that we made from that experiment because we loved it so much. It's called ex vitae, which is Latin for from the vine or of the vine. And it's a lovely wine. We don't make a lot of that wine. I think we make about 125 cases of that wine. The one thing I love, you can go to the next slide, I think it's me and Michael. The one thing I love about Michael Thomas is he is a professor at heart, and I love poking a stick at it. So he wants to, every year we have 4 or 5 experiments. We try to slate 5 experiments, unique experiments in. Sometimes due to time constraints, we might only get 4 off. You know, I remember one year we wanted to do an early pick on Pinot, like an early pick at 22, but it was August and it was hitting 22. It was a hot year and we were still bottling. I'm like, there's no way we're going to get this done. So, but so you just have to sort of adjust. But we always try to like slate for like, what are the 5 things you want to learn, or what are the 5 things you want to try? And typically it's container. You know, for the Falangina, one year we had a lot of the fruit. The first year it was grafted, we got a huge crop load. It's sort of evened out since then, but we did juice, skin only. You know, we did neutral oak, new oak. I mean, we just sort of did a little bit of everything. And it's fun because you really get to sort of taste everything and decide what you like best and sort of go in that direction.
I love the fact that your owner is an archaeologist. That's just...
Yeah, so in the picture you see he's standing next to what are actually amphora. I know we often call the big containers are actually dolio or dolium, the big containers. In fact, we have some, we make our Falangina in our dolium, which are the big sort of terracotta pots. These are amphora. They actually have a point on them, most of them. And so they would lean them in the corner, but this is a dig he is doing in Pompeii. So this was covered by the ash of the volcano explosion in Pompeii. And what he does is fascinating. They actually dug up a what they think is a wine distribution center, and they could tell because they were like it was like a loading dock. They were like cart ruts of the wooden carts, and they found a lot of pomegranate, and they used pomegranate for tanning hides. And they think that they were basically tanning whole cows as a wine bladder, and then putting them on flatbed carts and then taking them down to the boats in the water. So it's, I mean, the stuff he finds is just fascinating.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so this is our home winery. It's a beautiful place. And you see behind me is Bianchi Bench that I was mentioning. We have 2 turtles in our pond, which I'm very proud of. But also you see on the right, I think those are all of our single vineyard Pinot Noirs, and that's in our tasting room in Carmel. So we have a tasting room basically on the weekends out at the winery. And then I think there's 7 days a week in Carmel next to the cheese shop at the plaza. And these are just some lovely things some really nice people said about the wines, which also makes me very proud. But it definitely takes a village. It's a lot of hard work doing what we do.
Your auction lot consists of 3 different Pinot Noirs. I'm sure some folks have visited. So 3 different single vineyards, all from 19s. Get in there and bid and get outbid. If you don't want to see how high these numbers can get in early, get out early. That's fine too. Or go back in and bid them up again. The money goes to Children's Hospital Los Angeles. 100% of it goes straight to our 501c3, and the wineries will be shipping the wine directly to you if you win. So it's always a great way to get really close to the winery is to buy their auction lot. So jump on that opportunity, support the charity, and enrich your wine cellar at the same time. So really good way to go. But all the wineries also, there's an email that has been sent out to you now, and hopefully everybody gets it. We had to send our little email out a few times. We just switched to a different email provider. And so some of our emails are probably going to your spam folders. So look in there. We'll figure that part out in the next couple of days. But there's a thank you email with a link for each of the wine brands. Also, with what I do here in Los Angeles, we're always having to create our next opportunity to get you together with us. And our tastings are called the Stars of Wine. But we do a tasting every Wednesday, and then we do 1 Stars activity a month. And our next one that's coming down the pipe is with Spain. And really put together a compelling wine list. In fact, I would like to attract the winemakers to come and join me, as we've got just the best in Albarino and some indigenous white varieties from Alejandro Fernandez, this amazing barrel fermented white Aryan variety, just crazy 2015 wine from Raul Perez, one of my favorites in Bearsco. We're going to be showing off this sensational, hard to get wine from 2008, Bodegas Cantador, Benjamin Romero. We're going to show off the Carmen Gran Reserva. That's a $140 bottle of Rioja. And we'll finish up in Monsant with a really cool brand that's setting some really amazing ethos very high with biodynamic diversity up in the high altitudes of Monsant and the soils there. Very cool. Oh yes, can't forget Flor de Pingas will finish off our tasting as well from the Ribera de Duero. So pretty awesome flight of wines for $45 if you get in early. If you want to do the bottle kit, we can have a few of those available as well. And in just a couple of days, those prices will go up. Retails right around $400 for the kit. So join us if you can. We'd love to have conversation with you and the Spanish producers. We'll also have the Spanish wines importers on the Zoom with us, and that's how we do it. But otherwise, check out our master calendar of all the activities that we have at our website. And someday, I hope to have a trip or a gathering up in Santa Lucia on the calendar, so you can meet me up there. But we love pulling the wine groups together. If you're in Los Angeles ever, just check out our calendar. I know a lot of you are from all over the country, but Zoom's a great way for us to get together this way, and we hope that you'll come and join us again. Sabrine, great job. Thank you so much to all the vintners, and we hope that everyone had a really great time. And I'm just super impressed with the SLH group and the way you guys bond together. Not every wine region works like you guys do. You're a fantastic team. Even though you have different brands you represent, it's Team SLH, and I really think that comes off in a beautiful way. And the wines are unique, but they each have a very signature type of warmth and character and richness that sets them apart. And if you do any of our Pinot tastings, I'm always looking for ways to set them apart. And I really feel like I got a much better understanding of the region and how to pronounce things up there as well. So thank you all. Mark, Sabrine, Nathan, Nick, awesome job to all of you.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
Yes, thank you very much, Ian. Fantastic.
Awesome. Pleasure.
Guys, just wait for me.
Bye, Ian. Pleasure to have discovered this new region.
Awesome, Lucia. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Clint, did she knock you offline when I was making a comment before? Did you guys go away? Clint Watson? I was watching, you guys just disappeared on me.
Can I have some food, please?
I got you now. Nope. Still can't hear you, Clint. Gwen, everything good? Did you want to make any closing comments?
Yeah, I would love to. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ian. This was a great experience. It's so fun to see all the wonderful people that you connect with regularly. We are just, I mean, I just am so proud of these people. It's such a privilege and an honor to get to work with all the vintners of the Santa Lucia Highlands and see people get turned on to their wines the way I was some 20 years ago when I first set foot there. And we couldn't be happier to have had the evening to spend a little time with you guys this night. So our event every year, the Sun, Wind and Wine Festival, is the second weekend in May. This year it's Saturday, May 14th. It's at Mare Soleil Winery. If you go to santaluciahighlands.com, you can read more about it. There's still a few tickets left. If we don't catch you this year, I hope you'll come join us next year. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And is there a link to that, Gwen? Can we put it in the chat?
I did put a link in the chat. I'll do it once again. Yeah.
Yeah, do it again, because I think it was a while back. And I'm looking for that myself. Maybe I'll see you there. And thanks again, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Cheers.